back for another episode of Living a Better Life with Darren and Denzel. Both Denzel and I are wellness coaches, have been for about a decade now, I think. We're getting up there. We're not getting
Okay.
old, are we?
Yeah.
No.
By that.
What was that?
Said people are going to be so insulted by that. Like, yeah.
I get insulted every day about that. Yeah, I mean, at this point, right? We're all in this together.
Yeah.
If it's a Zoom call, it's the same Zoom. I was
Yeah.
saying the other day, you can't. It's like there's no Chanel for Zoom. You can't. There's no Hermes. You can't wrap it up. So here we are, live and talking about perspective. So I thought it'd be really great for us to dive into, of course, everything that we always talk about: wellness, life, creating, living a better life, for that matter, right? But that these different ways that wellness coaches are specifically the way that we're looking at challenges. And with fitness, very if there's a challenge at hand, right? You give a client, okay, you have 10 reps to do this exercise, and there's a perspective that so you try and give that person that perspective. This is what that might look like. Okay, I need you to get your elbow to your knee and lift your rib cage, right? But then we start taking that into the emotional spectrum. We start taking that into just life in general, and that gaining a different perspective. I know for myself, over the years, the most growth that I've had is when I decided to check my ego, step to the side, figure out, oh, hey, there's another perspective here. And how can I use that perspective to get a better understanding of the whole picture, not just my picture? And I know we were just chatting before we jumped on about some of the challenges that we're facing as a humanity and also personally. Some cool stuff. You're going to be traveling across the country. You've been indoors. I haven't been outdoors. Sorry, I haven't been in such a challenging spot, but there have been days where there's just too much smoke. You can't go outside. For you, it's been like weeks, man. How are you doing with it?
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's most of like the habits and things that bring me joy tend to be things that are outdoors. Like I start off my day pretty much as soon as I wake up, roll out of bed, and then go on a hike and do some meditation and some Tai Chi and all of that just outdoors. Nature just is like a good start to my pretty much 2 weeks now. I haven't really been able to do that practice. I wake up, I do some yoga inside and meditate, but I'm inside. And then for the rest of the day, I've been inside also. So it's been very wearing. And it was one of those things where today I do this for this corporation. I do like a wellness kind of class for them just once a week. And I was like I've been struggling with it. Like, man, this sucks. So I was like, let me ask them how, like, check in on them, because if I'm struggling with it, I feel like I usually don't
Sure.
caught up on things as much as I have been with this. I was like, then they must be, really feeling it. And, it was a question that the answer that I got back was, made me way more appreciative of what I was doing with them, right? Of trying to give them a break in their day, of helping them focus on themselves and on their health and on what they can do. And that kind of just gave me just a new perspective on, okay, well, what, are the things? Yeah, it sucks and I don't want to be inside, but this is the situation. What can I do in this situation to at least make myself feel better, and then also to continue to, help others even from this weird state and situation.
Yeah, it reminds me, I often, I'm sure just like yourself, you get these moments of inspiration when you're in your flow. And kudos to you for changing it up, right? I got to do something different. I think that's also like gaining a different perspective, is like, well, what is the reality and how can I adapt? But the thing that I posted comes from a T Zen kind of philosophy, which is 80% of life is preparation, or 80% of life is cleaning. Basically, you have to be able to restore and also to maintain. And we've kind of left ourselves in a position where the majority, well, I wouldn't say the majority of people, but a large percent of what we're calling, the upper to middle class, we and myself included have bought happiness in certain forms, or bought an emotional awareness. And because all of that is being stripped away, we're now needing to deal with more emotional things, right? And cleaning is one of them. Preparation is a big part of anything, because the doing is actually very small, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you can get a lot done in a small amount of time. And you and I were talking about the Tour de France earlier, and that's a specific breed, right? It's like the creme de la creme. It's a very small percentage that are trying to go for this super huge Ferrari type goal set. But
Yeah.
that when we're stepping back and recognizing that maybe winning isn't always the end goal, but gaining a better perspective of the scenario so that we can win in long term, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the things I love too: Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, hiking, nature, right? We love these things because of the connection that it gives us to our creative outlets. What are we going to create in this world? I bet you, and I would love to hear from you, from your own mouth. Like, I bet, because I know I feel that way, that without those things, those quote unquote outlets, they're really nourishment. Those are the things that give me the nourishment. You on your hike, I went on my skateboard for 3 miles, flowing around, got back. I can get more done in a shorter amount of time because I'm feeling inspired by the movement practice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's things that I call them like 1 minute tasks that
Oh,
no
sweet.
longer are taking 1 minute, right? They're taking me 30 minutes because I'm not like fully nourished, and I'm like, this isn't what I need right now, but it's what I have to do at the moment. And it's like pretty much all that I can do. But like the easy work has definitely been taking almost double the time. And what this current situation just gets me to keep thinking about is just, how to really try to savor those moments when you're in them, right? Like when I am out on a hike, to not take it for granted, to definitely, not that I really have service ever or I'm on my phone, but like to make sure that I'm just living in that moment and fully appreciating what I'm doing. And that's outside in general. I know, like, for the longest time, because I'm from New England, so you're used to most of the year, or at least half of the year, it's pretty much not great weather. And then as soon as the sun comes back out, the weather warms up, you're outside and you don't want to be inside. So since I've moved to California, I've basically kept that kind of mindset. And everyone's like, it's so like, dude, it's nice every day. Like, you don't need to always be doing something every time it's nice. And I'm like, well, now this is even more like, for me, furthering why I have that mindset to begin with. Like, it doesn't need to just be nice for me to go outside. Like, if it's raining, I'll go outside. There's not really many things at this point that will keep me inside, except for this current situation. So it's like, continue to find joy in not what wouldn't be my like picture perfect day, still finding joy in those days, because you never know when stuff like this is around the corner, right?
You and I are very similar and very different, right? I grew up in Southern California, so
Yeah.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt. It's 60 degrees. Why are you wearing a sweatshirt? And they'd say, oh, it's evergreen. I never really knew when fall was. It was a baseball season. Okay, it's not fall. It's the opposite, right? But you really hit home on this piece that because of this situation, a lot of these preconditions go away, and we're forced to find opportunities rather than to like try and create them, right? It's what is in front of me. And I as a child, my mom hated me. We'd buy new clothes and I would immediately wear them around the house. I'd wear them, doing chores, garden. She's like, why are you wearing your brand new t-shirt while you're mowing the lawn? I said, because
Yeah.
it feels good. I feel like I'm doing a better job mowing the lawn. Doesn't the
Yeah,
lawn look better because I'm wearing a t-shirt, right? So
yeah,
I know it sounds ludicrous, but obviously, quality of life is a big part of living a successful life, I think. I'm sure you would agree. And
mhm,
that quality of life is greatly diminished by our mindset and uh, how we're viewing our lives, and whether or not we're asking for help, or getting different perspectives on how we're living. And it wasn't until I was living with someone for a significant amount of time, the same person besides my family, that I recognized that this was a treasure that I was missing. And we can get it in different forms and in different ways, but
mhm,
this treasure of, hey, what do you see me going through? What does it look like to the other person?
mhm,
Oh, wow, that
yeah,
is what I thought, or no, that's not what I thought. And I think that that perspective also allows us to be more human. They're just able to connect with each other. Yeah,
absolutely. Being able to, yeah, to not always have to be the one doing this, like, I guess, self examination of like where your emotions are. How are you carrying yourself? You're like, I have no idea. I know how I see myself, and I can kind of guess
exactly.
how the world's seeing me. But to be able to have someone else be like, yeah, those last 2 weeks you were pretty dark during those times, or you weren't your normal lively self, or whatever comment someone may have that will give you a different perspective for you to then be like, oh, all right, hold on, let me run the tape back and go through all of that the last 2 weeks again with that information and see if I find that to be true or not, right? So I think like anytime you're able to get a new perspective, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be what you take as your reality, but it gives you a chance to at least reshape what your reality is of a certain situation. So I think it's definitely an important thing to have people that will give you like honest feedback on pretty much everything. That way you can take it as, okay, this person, they're not trying to offend me, they're just trying to give me some truth that would help me either figure out like, okay, well, if that's how they're taking it, what in my actions would have led to that, and is that something I'm fine with, and then I'll continue to do that behavior, or is it something that I would want to change? But and like this situation of the smoke and everything, it's obviously within it could be a lot worse. I could be dealing with the fires themselves, right? Like my home could have burned down. I could have
Sure.
lost a love, like it could be way worse. So pretty much in every situation, if you can take a step back from it, you can see that, it definitely could be a worse situation. And you should try to find, I guess, whatever that silver lining would be within any of it. But
What do you feel stops people from that? I have an idea, and it's of course my opinion, but I feel like there's also this third piece, which is what's stopping us from,
yeah, I think
recalibrating. Go ahead.
most of the time it's like just being so self focused, right? Like just thinking about yourself too much is usually it, because it's like as soon as you can try to think about somebody else, then usually you can have a quick perspective switch. But when it's you're so focused on what you're suffering with and what you're going through and this and that, it just gets you kind of self consumed. So you aren't even aware of like, hey, that person over there that you can see within eyesight has it 1,000 times worse than you. Like that could be you. Like you have stuff to be thankful for, but it's like just being overly consumed in the self that gets a lot of people to just be stuck there.
It's a hard one. I find, it's like, is the person really looking? Do they know that they're self-sabotaging before it blows up? I
Yeah.
always tell people, like, don't you want to know the cliff's coming 20 miles away, not a foot before you decide to check yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a long path off sometimes. And it's like we're bringing a better awareness. Perspective, I think, gains a map. We're gaining a map of our feelings, of our emotions, of our thought processes, of how we're doing things, and then we can use that map and go, well, the last time we went down that route, this is what happened, and then it's like becoming okay with all of it happening. We don't want to deny it, or try and say, well, those things aren't warranted. You can't be angry. No, that's not the place to be angry. Well, it's like, well, maybe it's not the right place, but maybe it is the right place, and we need to be better listeners. We need to say, okay, there's a perspective here that will help me to gain, whether I think so or not, a better understanding of who I am. I think that's the sociologist in me. I used to just go to the malls and just stare at people. I didn't know why, but it's like, creeper. Who's the creeper? But it's this perspective of learning. You gain a perspective that allows us to see other types of solutions that maybe we didn't see before as well. I just think there's so much to be gained that anytime an opportunity comes up to perceive differently, I'm like, let's be curious about this. Let's not,
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a meditation tool, right? Be curious about your thoughts. Don't try and just like blow them up like a nuclear bomb. I mean,
Yeah.
you could, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't had too much success with that.
Yeah. No, definitely the curiosity thing of, I had to do it the other day. I'm like, with the presidential election, trying to wrap my head around how is it that people could still be supporting a certain one of the candidates. And I'm like, let me do some Googling. Like I shouldn't just shun this down and just assume that I'm on whatever the right side or whatever it was that my mind was thinking. And, I do the Googling and get more perspective. And I was just like, wasn't expecting it to double down on what my beliefs were, but it like tripled down on it.
You're like, I'm all in forever.
Yeah, like man, like it's just like my curiosity led me to this place, and then got me to not just be like, oh no, like I'm right, everyone else or they're wrong or whatever. And I'm like, let me just go and take a search. Let me look on, see where they stand on certain issues and all the stuff that I was pretty sure that I knew, but I was like, I just need to just check myself just to make sure. And then, sometimes that will happen if your curiosity leads to you to a place where you're like, okay, well, maybe I was looking at it from the right angle all along. Or sometimes you can go and do Googling or flip through some books or something and you can figure out, okay, well, I wasn't putting any of that stuff into account and it might change what your beliefs are. But in that particular case, that wasn't.
Yeah, some things are a little bit more weighted than others.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, it's still great to gain a perspective because, like you said, it's not all negative or positive.
Yeah.
It's a blend. It's like in meditation, especially in Zen meditation, there's not so much a focus on one thing and or multiple things, but simply a moving, graceful object like a leaf in water or clouds in the wind. And it seems very remedial, right? But it's this perspective. Are you the cloud? Are you the tree? Are you the grass? Are you the person in the grass? There's these things allow us to see things neutrally. You saw it neutrally first, right? And then you were like, no, I need to do some deeper investigation. And that investigation, that curiosity led to a deeper awareness of the values that you hold so dear.
Yeah.
And I think, that's the essence that we're trying to get at here is gaining a different perspective, no matter how difficult it can feel in the moment, right? Getting, being able to get that feedback in a neutral way is just paramount for our ability to stay sane. I mean, even if it's plant life or like, signs from the universe, it could be as woo woo as it be. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm thinking about something and then that particular thing happens. right? Like, oh, there's that sign, right? I feel like whether I'm a baseball player, so it's just like superstition 150%, right? Left sock inside out, whatever, spit on the
Yeah,
line before you go to the mound. And it's still true for me, but
yeah,
I've changed that and dialed it down from it not being fireworks, right? I saw a red bird. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. But it's like the perspective just for a moment changed. And in that moment, a profundity of awareness and understanding. And I get chills when that stuff happens. And I know that it's out there, right? I'm
yeah,
sure you're getting chills on something. It could be Mandalorian season 2, which I just watched and was like frozen for 30 minutes. Or it could be as simple as, right, just feeling a gust of wind and just being reminded that you're okay, and that there's people out there that want to help, and you're also a help for other people, and that aspect. And so perspective away, right?
yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I have to check out season 2 if it's out.
It's
But
not out. You saw a trailer, man. I was
yeah,
like, I saw it on my iPhone, and then I thought, no, I need to see this on the screen and turn the volume up too loud.
yeah,
It needs to happen. But that was another perspective change. It could be something small, right?
yeah. No,
Music, yeah. Go ahead.
it's 100%. It's really just trying to take the time to pay attention to what's going on around you, to maybe even think about these signs, right? As opposed to just like pushing ahead, going, and then you missing all the signs that were there that were telling you caution or stop or take a right or whatever it may be. It's like if you're just pushing and going straight forward and paying attention to nothing, like you have no idea if there's going to be a wall ahead or not. You're not paying attention to that. So it's really important to just kind of be able to slow down and pay attention to those little things. I mean, I say small world all the time in situations where it really doesn't apply. So like the things that you're talking about, like to me would be a small world thing, right? Like something just that just happens by chance to catch your eye and might have changed your path and led you to something better. I'm like, oh, small world, like what's the likelihood that I would notice something like that and it would give me all of this joy back, or we would have this sort of connection or something like that. I'm just all for it. So anything that gets me to pause.
Are you into physics at all?
In what way?
Like understanding, I'm not that I'm a physicist by any means. I took a class in college called physics for presidents, so it's like theoretical physics, things you don't need to do math equations for. And I think it's really thought experiments. I'm really into thought experiments. But sometimes the things that I learn in the science world, things that we're discovering about physics, makes more sense in terms of consciousness too. And certainly there's a lot of talk in the media world, anywhere you look, really, about these interesting, subtle energy phenomena that explain a lot of how we are emotionally driven, how we stay balanced, how we stay healthy. It's just like we didn't say we talked about yoga, tai chi, meditation, like that's subtle energy movement.
Yeah.
And that's also perspective, because as you said, small world indicates that it's not that big, right? But then the universe is huge.
Yeah.
But from a physicist point of view, the further out we go into the universe, the closer we get to the thing at the smallest level,
Yeah.
the atom. We see very similar moments. So it's like that's also serendipitous to me. Those are the moments where I was like, oh, like I'm okay.
Yeah.
I just need to relax, find better ways, more productive, skillful ways,
Yeah.
tools that I can use daily, right? Those rituals, and be able to adapt with them. If I said, well, I have to eat a certain diet of pineapples. I'm sure there is a diet of pineapples out there. I'm sure some guy lost like 100 pounds on it. He was like, I'm gonna write a book, and then people were like, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But if you had pineapples every single day, right, and then all of a sudden there was a pineapple shortage, you'd be you'd be screwed. What do you? I can't eat pineapples anymore. So I think it's like we're at a point too where there's enough out there, right? You can get started in a lot of places. Don't make it overwhelming for yourself. Digest what you can, right? If it's just perspective, have a conversation with someone, ask them how they see you. Maybe it's a loved one or someone that you care about, and just ask, hey, what do you see about my world? And then back and forth, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like be active with trying to create a change within the moment, right? Like if you're just sitting there suffering, being miserable about current state, start thinking about, well, who haven't I talked to in a bit? Or what haven't I done in a while that usually would bring me joy? Like, is there a way for me to do it in this current state? And like, just really trying to essentially like challenge yourself to just to just create some sort of change. But, it's obvious that it's very challenging during this time because, I mean, all of the stuff that we're all already dealing with,
Mm.
it's just like it feels like these things are just being compiled on top of one another. And I mean, for me, the perspective is, well, it can definitely be worse. Like anything so it can be better for sure because we've seen it when it's been better, and it can be worse because every time we think it's at the worst it could be, something else seems to happen. So it's like we know change is coming. What will that change look like? I don't know, but maybe you should figure out like a way to start to enjoy whatever current state is, right? Like as weird as that may sound.
For sure, find the perspective that works for you.
So,
Live your life. I totally agree.
yeah.
And reach out to that person, or maybe it's small world moment already. They've already texted you.
Yeah, that's always the weirdest.
I love it.
Oh,
Thanks so much for talking, Denzel. This is always so much fun. Once again, you can catch us live. We're also on YouTube. Right now, we're on Darren Becket Wellness YouTube. I think Denzel will have the YouTube up on his as well, so you can watch any of the past episodes and stay current on the future ones. Anyways, thanks so much again for watching, and we hope to catch you next time. Thanks again, Denzel.
yeah, thanks. See you.
Ciao.